Well, another packed Olympic Park on the final extraordinary weekend of this summer of sport. But has the huge public support for Paralympics GB athletes really changed British attitudes towards disability in general? Well, a specially commissioned poll by Channel 4 suggests it has. 2/3 of viewers say the coverage has had a positive effect on their view of disabled people, while more than half say they now feel much more comfortable talking about disabilities, which is just as well, especially against the backdrop of record levels of disability hate crime. Our Olympics reporter, Porrick O'Brien, reports.
Wednesday evening, the Olympic Park, London. Ollie Hind, who has a condition that weakens his muscles, takes gold. Same day, same time, Belfast. Michael Bailey, who has a condition that weakens his muscles, is confronted yet again by the group of teenagers who have tormented him for years.
These kids are all sitting here laughing and calling me freak, which I'm used to it now. But I felt myself getting a bit frightened because there was too many of them.
Before his condition worsened 7 years ago, Michael could walk.
But once I went in the wheelchair, it all changed, completely changed. And I think back now, that was the start of it. That was the start of it. When they're throwing bottles at me and all was coming in, like they were throwing different things at me. I said they must have thrown it to somebody else. I still didn't think they were throwing it at me.
Bottle throwing became arson. They set his mobility scooter alight in a shed outside his house. Arson became a mugging while in his wheelchair.
You lose your whole, the wonder of your being, who you are, then you lose your identity. Lose everything. And you're always thinking, like, are they going to come back? They're going to finish it off.
All of this has been reported to police, but part of the problem is that he's not exactly sure who's responsible. According to the charity MenCap, reported disability hate crime is at a record high, and anything, therefore, that adjusts attitudes toward disability matters. This new survey by Channel 4 suggests that the Paralympics may have done just that. For example, 2/3 of viewers, when asked, felt that the coverage of the Paralympics has had a favourable impact on their perceptions around people with disability. 4 in 5 viewers agreed that the coverage of the Games will improve society's perceptions of disabled people. We put these findings to the boss of Paralympics GB.
That challenge to perception, that belief actually that rather than thinking about what people are unable to do, they're now actually focusing resolutely on what they are able to do, and in some cases being truly inspired by that, then I'm really encouraged by that, and I think there's so much more we can do on the back of it.
The survey also found that more than 4 in 5 adults agreed that disabled athletes were as talented as able-bodied athletes. Over 4 in 5 viewers also agreed that they are now more familiar with disabled athletes as a result of watching the coverage. We don't know whether the people targeting Michael Bailey watched the Paralympics, and if they did, whether they're less likely to attack him next time. What we do know is that he watched the Games in Technicolor, from a very dark place indeed.
I've watched the Paralympics on TV, and I see them all, it's all bright and colourful and all positive. And I'm sitting maybe in my bedroom, mine's just all dark. It's the opposite to that, which the Paralympics is good, but my life's just at that stand and in total darkness.
Well, in just a sec, we'll be debating the issues raised in that report. But first, I'm sure you can't help noticing large amount of smoke coming apparently from the vicinity of the Olympic Stadium. It is not. We're informed it's coming from a great deal distant further south of the stadium. If there's any change on that and we find out what it is, if it's important, we'll let you know. So will there really be any lasting change then to attitudes to disabled people, or is this just a blip? With me here to discuss it, we're joined by Channel 4's very own Paralympic blogger for London 2012, James Ballardy, and Adam Lowton, who's a prominent disability campaigner. Adam, we like occasionally to report good news, in spite of what people say. This is apparently good news. Is it permanent?
It certainly is. It looks good news, but whether it is actually permanent or will stay permanent, I doubt very much. Currently, my own personal view is things haven't changed that much at all, apart from, do you play sports or are you a Paralympian? And then when you say no, they lose interest with you.
Right, because James, we were just talking a moment ago there, hate crimes to do with disability seems an extraordinary thing. At record levels, that seems to run counter to the extraordinary festival of disabled sport we've been seeing behind us.
I'd be amazed to see what the hate crime rate is for the last 10 days. I mean, we're talking about the Paralympics and what it will be for the rest of the year. I mean, you guys are talking about changing perceptions. The other day I was in the park and there were these two kids, about 5 or 6, mimicking Richard Whitehead, the Blade Runner's running style. We talk about legacy. I mean, I think that's got to be a great impact for the games. And there's a famous quote from Tanni Gray-Thompson who said that when she used to race, one man and his dog would turn up, and 6.3 million people tuned in to see Johnny Peacock the other night. I think there's a lot of great unknowns about where the Paralympics movement is going to go, how disabled people will be perceived afterwards. I'm just as fascinated as Adam to find out.
The figures that you were saying about the last 10 days, the report that came out recently said 65,000 increase last year alone that was recorded, and these are the figures that were recorded by the police correctly.
That's hate crime.
That's the hate crime.
But doesn't something like this erode that? I'm not saying it stops it, but
I don't think so at all. People who are going to commit any sort of incitement to hate crime, etc., they will use whatever they're being fed. And these increases that have happened because of the perceptions and implications that have come out through the press, via the DWP, through misrepresentation of figures and use of odd words, such as scroungers and fraudsters and faking it.
Right, well, it's an interesting word, scroungers and fraudsters. Funny you should raise that, because a Twitter point made by a viewer to me today, and James, you might want to answer this, said, it's all very well, yeah, Paralympics great, but I mean, it reinforces a sense in which disabled people are either perceived as supermen and superwomen, or they're perceived, as you point out, as scroungers. Is there some truth in that? There's no sort of normal middle ground here.
When you're looking at able-bodied people, you don't draw attention to the boring ones, you know. I mean, and why should that be any different for disabled people? Obviously, you're going to look at the extremities as you would do in any walk of life, and this, for me, is not about hate crime. This is about celebrating achievement, and that's what these games have done. The difference between the way that the Paralympics has been responded to before versus now is unparalleled.
Right. Quick point, because I want to get both on this. Adam, very briefly, these athletes go back and they're going to probably get their ATOS assessments,
Definitely.
disability living allowance. It's back to reality, isn't it?
Yes, most definitely. We know that they weren't assessed before deliberately. They were held back. And now they're going to go back, and these achievements that they've made are going to be used against them. And I'm sorry, they're all going to be marked as fit for work.
Well, that might be a bit of a prejudgment, but isn't that, James, the reality to what these people are going back to?
I mean, look, there's no one's denying the irony of ATOS's involvement with the Games. I think that what the Games is going to do is make it easier for people to get into work, because of the way that they perceive disabled people. Suddenly, it's not so difficult to talk to them. I mean, we all know that they exist. There's a very different thing from knowing that they exist to engaging with them. Engaging with people is what's going to make things better for disabled people, not, rattling on about benefits or rattling on about hate crime. It is interlinked, of course, but the Games is a vehicle for changing attitudes, not policy.
Well, it can only change attitudes if, as you were saying, people getting into work, if the government actually supports with the funding that is supposed to be there. And they've already made significant changes to access to work.
If you want a government to change something, then people need to vote in a government that will do that. And next election, you may see a more compassionate government in regards to benefits.
Right, but this is clearly where the debate is going. Once all this is over, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. But guys, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Now, one athlete who has perhaps done most to affect that change in perceptions is the teenage swimmer Ellie Simmonds. After winning 2 golds, just 13 in Beijing, she's one of the faces of London 2012, no doubt about that. With another 2 golds in her belt already this week, she was hoping tonight to defend a 100 metres freestyle title. Here's our sports reporter, Kemin Zeram.
This is going to be an excellent swim from Ellie Simmonds.
There's a way to qualify for the flagship 100 metres final. Ellie Simmonds, cool as you like. It's as if in Ellie Simmonds that Britons have found someone we can all identify with. Yes, she's the very face of the Paralympics, a superstar. But on the other hand, she's still somehow the girl next door who wears her heart on her sleeve, who's also extraordinarily good at swimming.
Still only 17, yet a driving force behind our changing attitudes to ability.
I believe truly that she's the face of British disability sport. She truly deserves that title of the face of British swimming. She's probably the athlete that people like kids younger than me look up to if they want to join in the sport.
I've kind of just been like, right, give me a chair, Rio, off I go. No, it's been really good, it's been really, really inspirational, and just hopes that everyone kind of thinks, right, I can do it too.
I think seeing people, if you have the same disability as someone, if you see someone doing well, then you might think, oh, actually, I can do that too, so why not have a go?
But winning this one and retaining another title was always going to be tough, too tough. Second behind Victoria Arlen, who set a new world record.
Ellie Simmonds takes it in second position.
But few would dispute this. Ellie Simmonds, first among equals of Para-GB.
I would have loved to get the goal, but I can't have everything. I'm just going to celebrate with the team and just be with them and enjoy it all, really.
And how much she has to enjoy. This summer, 2 golds, a silver and a bronze, and a very special place in the nation's heart.
She certainly does. So, straight to the medal table. Let's see how it stacks up. And Great Britain have slipped to third behind Russia. China lead with 87 golds. Russians have 34, one more than Great Britain on 33.